So DJ actually does this thing where he either forgets that we're going to podcast or he makes other plans at the exact same time that we're expected to podcast. And the worst thing about this is he does it with a matter of hours, and I just go into scramble mode. I have to improvise to try to find a guest. So I've been trying to get one of our writers on the podcast that's never been on before. I've always trying to get him on for a while now. So I checked in with him, and by the way, this is the normal intro. We'll fully introduce Mitchell Renz here in a second, but I'm talking to Mitchell Renz. So no offense. Before I talked to you, I checked with him. I wanted to see if he wanted to come on. This was his exact response. Not tonight. The girlfriend is visiting, so I'm hoping to finally get laid after a few weeks. Now, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at him for the choice that he made, but since you've experienced both making love to a lady and being on the Loaded Box podcast, you got to let me know which one's better. Which do you prefer?
Oh, man, that is one loaded question. There's no doubt about that. But here's the thing I'm more upset about. I'm more upset about that I'm your plan B, and I'm hoping that your new friend doesn't need plan B on his date. And I've actually been on the Loaded Box podcast after using plan B from loading up a box, so I'm going to take Loaded Box.
That was so much better than I had. That is the ultimate praise that you can get as a podcast. So Mitchell,
hey,
let's get loaded, because this is the Loaded Box podcast. Oh, this is where you're supposed to come in here with your DJ quote, but you just took a big chug.
What does DJ say? Oh, wait, we never finish first because we always finish last.
Very close, but I'm going to let it go. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mitchell Renz. I am Ben Morgan. We are without DJ Primo, who once again just somehow just forgets that we have plans to do this kind of stuff. Ended up buying tickets to a basketball game. It's a great game, so I'll give him that. And it gives me and Mitchell a chance to reconnect. So I've got to, maybe it's not going to be all that bad. But Mitchell is joining us. We are going to be talking about the top headlines that we expect to see and the biggest questions that we have heading into the NFL offseason. So, Mitchell, are you ready? I mean, feels like the Super Bowl, obviously, it just got over, but, man, football never dies. I mean, I am ready for next year already.
I'm already set, and to be honest, I don't even know if the Super Bowl happened. I think I slept through the entire thing. What an absolute terrible game that was. And we were at work doing a watch party, and I'm not kidding you, Ben. I took 3 shots and I drank 7 beers on air. I was feeling a type of way after the Super Bowl watch party because it was such a shitty game. But I'm excited for football ready to start next year. You know that I have my own show, Fantasy Football AF. I might start my new show here at Chat Sports, Fantasy Football AAF, because it's already ridiculous.
Oh, nice. Nice. You had that built in. That was ready to go with that AAF.
Actually, if you would follow me on Twitter, you could see
I do follow you on Twitter.
And everybody else should too at Mitchell Renz 365.
Nice. I knew that'd be a great hint to get you in there. I got one thing before we get started here, and it involves Kareem Hunt. But then for our YouTube listeners, since I have the luxury of talking with Bryce Harper on air, where are you going to sign, Bryce? Man, every single time I see you, you look more and more like Bryce Harper. What's going on with that?
Well, we are about 17 days apart. I did shave today, and I wish I was Bryce Harper because I can guarantee you one thing. If I was Bryce Harper, I wouldn't be sitting here on Loaded Box Podcast right now. I can guarantee that I'd be making a whole bunch of money playing baseball. But in all honesty, I think Bryce is going to end up signing with the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah.
I know I also run the Yankees show here at Chat Sports, and, man, MLB free agency. If it's the MLB hot stove, somebody needs to check the plug because it sucks.
Man, it's not very hot. It's taking a long time for that thing to heat up. Nice. Well, there were some big
DJ's
news.
wife.
There you go. Good burn. Good burn.
It's not as good when he's not here, but it's all right.
Yeah, you got to do it. Well, there was some big news. So we're going to talk about some headlines and some questions that are upcoming in the NFL offseason. But a huge one hit yesterday. Kareem Hunt signing with the Cleveland Browns. Me and DJ, I was actually looking forward to talking with him about this because we are on total opposite ends of the spectrum here. So I'm going to ask you the question. Was it a good football move for the Cleveland Browns to sign Kareem Hunt?
Good football move, yes, and I'll say yes because I think Kareem Hunt is a talented running back. And at the end of the day, if you can add talent he's I think it's what, a 1 year, $1 million deal, and I think you can argue that Kareem Hunt is one of the best running backs in the NFL. I mean, his first 27 games, he has 25 touchdowns. He has more rushing yards than Todd Gurley, more receiving touchdowns than Todd Gurley's first 27 games. Like, Kareem Hunt is a really talented running back. Now, I'll also say I think it has a little bit to do with that offense. I mean, we saw Damian Williams kind of explode like once Hunt went down or left. And but again, I think at the worst case scenario, it's going to motivate Nick Chubb, and I still think Kareem Hunt is a running back that's going to get suspended for 6 games this year.
Right.
And I made the argument that the Browns may never even play this kid. What if they just use him as trade bait?
Yeah.
I mean, how often do we see in that first 6 weeks that an NFL running back on another team goes down, and then now you have Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I thought maybe we would disagree like DJ and I were going to, but I am totally with you. Here it is, man. Like you said, Kareem Hunt still might end up being suspended. There's such thing as injuries in the NFL. If Duke Johnson or Nick Chubb goes down, boom, you just plugged in a top 10 running back.
Duke Johnson's going to get traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Bet on it.
That's another thing that I told DJ. I'm like, dude, use one of them for trade bait. But here's the thing about signing him. Whatever team was going to sign him, because a team was going to sign him, obviously the Browns did.
Yes.
Someone was going to get flack for a couple of days. But what is that flack going to do to your franchise and program overall? Absolutely nothing. In a matter of days here, it's going to be whatever. I mean, Kareem Hunt, like you said, doesn't even need to play a single down. If things don't work out and they want to go another way, you cut him and that'll be old news. There's literally zero backlash to this. It's all upside. You're getting a young top 10 running back and you're giving up nothing. Take the play here. I told DJ, in the last 10 to 15 years, the smartest move the Miami Dolphins could have done was sign Kareem Hunt literally the day after he got released. People like this don't just fall in your lap. I get it. He did something wrong. Well, guess what? People in the NFL, people in the NBA, people with everyday jobs do stuff wrong. Why is the NFL the moral police that gets to say, oh, you did this wrong, you can't play, you get cut? It just doesn't make sense to me. That should be a team decision, in my honest opinion. Because what would suspending a guy for 4 years or for 4 games? Oh wow, there's your 4-game suspension. You sat out those games. Guess what? You're cured of all your wrongdoings. That does nothing. That doesn't do anything.
And I think as an NFL franchise, and I think fans need to think about a lot. Our job here, your job here, is to make this podcast as best as possible. NFL team's job is to make their team as best as possible. And Kareem Hunt's going to do that. And I think, I love Nick Chubb. He's a really talented running back, and it's going to motivate him. He's like, damn, I got Kareem Hunt behind me. So, and I think both healthy, I would probably take Kareem Hunt over Nick Chubb. But, again, I think you look at the relationship. It's John Dorsey. John Dorsey drafted Kareem Hunt in Kansas City, and he wanted to give him another chance. Now, I'm surprised that the Browns were the team. I had my top 2 teams as the Raiders and the Bears because Nagy was also really high on Hunt. But, Browns took it, and I like the Browns because they're the franchise where they're like, screw it, what do we have to lose?
Exactly. Exactly.
And if I hear one more person compared to Ray Rice, I'm going to throw up because Ray Rice, when he did, he was washed up. That's why he didn't come back into the NFL. Kareem Hunt, far from washed up.
Ray Rice had 4 touchdowns and averaged just over 3 yards per carry in that last year. There was a big difference. There was a big difference. I'll give you that.
Absolutely.
Like you said, that signing kind of came out of nowhere, so I wanted to touch on it since we recorded the next day. So for this first offseason headline, I want you to fill in the blank with this one. So the headline is, Antonio Brown is anxious to start catching touchdowns from
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Ooh, is that your big play after AB's trade request today via Twitter?
So the 49ers have been my top team for Antonio Brown, I'm going to say for about a month. And I put a video out on Twitter, which is actually doing pretty well right now. I ranked every single team in the NFL and their chance to trade for Antonio Brown. I also did it on Chat Sports. It's about a 20-minute video. But I go through from 31 all the way to 1. And the 49ers are number 1. The team that I would like him to play on the most is the Colts. I think him with Andrew Luck would be super entertaining.
That was my answer.
I think the other teams there, the Jets, they just have a lot of money to blow, and the Raiders apparently are interested. There's a report from Paul Gutierrez that says the Raiders want to sign Antonio Brown. but people don't read the fine print, and it's like in a bold predictions article. So
yeah.
I think he's going to go to the 49ers. So it's I think it's just about a done deal, to be honest.
I think the 49ers make sense, and you hit on the team that I was going to say, because I think him landing with the Colts, in my opinion, is the ultimate. When Andrew Luck's been healthy, look at the success that he and T.Y. Hilton have had with really no one else around him. I mean, they were making Jack Doyle look awesome. They were making like average to slightly above average running backs.
Dontrell and Manchester Taylor, Eric Ebron, 13 touchdowns. Like, hey, man.
The list goes on. If you put, and this is the funny statement here, you put a solid number 2 next to T.Y. Hilton, guess what? AB's better. T.Y. Hilton instantly becomes the best number 2 wide receiver in the league. Like, that'd be better than that Vikings duo. It wouldn't even be close, in my opinion. That'd be such a nasty tandem. I don't know what the salary cap for the Colts look like. That's not what we do. We like to recklessly speculate on this. But if you give me a team that I would love to see, man, give me the Colts. That would be like the ultimate, in my opinion.
The Colts have the most money in cap space right now. I think they have 125. I think they have 125 million, and then the next closest team, I believe, is at 95 million, which is the Jets. So I mean, the Colts have the most money to blow. But I mean, if there's another team, like if we're talking about J.R. Smith pipe dreams here, like like Aaron Rodgers and Antonio Brown and Devontae Adams. I know DJ would love that, but that'd be another really pretty one. But
nasty.
Packers need to concentrate on that defense because it's ugly.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next headline. It still is Chiefs related, but it's not. Well, I guess it's not really Chiefs related with Kareem Hunt anymore. But the headline that I drew up here was Chiefs are the biggest favorite to win Super Bowl in 2019. Can you get behind that headline, or do you see a kind of a slump coming, maybe a little regression from that offense?
Well, I don't know if anybody watches what we do at Chat Sports, but our sponsor is BetDSI, and I encourage anybody, including you, Ben, actually, I can hook you up if anybody wants to bet. I can actually get you a free jersey right now. It's a pretty sick deal we got going on. So, in all honesty, I can.
Get a Kareem Hunt jersey.
Oh, God. Here's the thing. I don't understand how the Chiefs are favored to win the Super Bowl. At the end of the day, I put my money on the Saints, and I put my money on the Patriots. Why am I putting my money on the Patriots? Well, 9 out of the last 11 years, they've been in the AFC Championship game. 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls, they're there, and they're Super Bowl champs again. Like, I think you're dumb to not put money on the Patriots every single year until we see Tom Brady die.
You'd be up.
And then I think Drew Brees and the Saints, man, they should have been in the Super Bowl to begin with. I mean, we can all agree that they got hosed, but I think the Chiefs will be exciting. But I want you also then to look at every single quarterback that's won the MVP and how much they've regressed. Now, again, like when Peyton Manning threw for 55 touchdowns, the next year it was like 39. Aaron Rodgers, the year he won, it was like 46 touchdowns to 37. Like, there's going to be a regression. But if that Chiefs defense doesn't improve a little bit, and if they don't re-sign D Ford, who's going to be a free agent, that defense is not good.
Right.
And I'm sorry, they're not taking down the Patriots.
That's the absolute biggest thing. If I were to like really give them a favorite, I would say, you bet them to take the AFC, obviously, just because you're eliminating a whole conference in the biggest game. But you nailed it on the head, man. You have to improve that defense. You can have the best offense in the world, and boom, you have one bad game. It's over. Look at the Rams. They averaged over 30 points per game with a great quarterback, or not a great quarterback, an okay quarterback, a great system, great coach, Todd Gurley, who was ignored for some reason. But man, you have one bad game, you're in the playoffs, your season is done. And look what the Patriots did. The Patriots shut down the Chargers, who had a good offense. Through the first half against the Chiefs anyways, they shut them down pretty well. And then they gave up 3 points to the Rams, who averaged over 30. They need to improve that defense or it's going to get ugly. We talked about it on the last podcast. I was looking at the betting odds for 2019. If I were to lay money on one team right now, you're kind of getting like not even middle of the road, a little bit higher in maybe the second tier, but a really good payout right now. I would try the Colts.
Interesting. I mean, I love Andrew Luck. He's a top 5 quarterback. That team's growing. They have a ton of money to spend. I think it's definitely an interesting team to flirt with.
Yeah.
I mean, they have more money than anybody. I'm not going to sit here and rip on it. I think out of all the Super Bowl stats that I saw, though, I think the one that I thought was the most crazy. Did you know that this Super Bowl victory against the Rams for the Patriots was their biggest margin of victory?
Isn't that insane? 13 points. 13 points being the the fewest points a winning team has scored in the Super Bowl, and then that margin of 10 being the biggest in Tom Brady's. That'll blow your mind. Like, you can't even you'd write a movie like that and you'd get laughed at. Like, that's insane.
I got a question for you. Is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer?
Absolutely not. You must not have listened to our last podcast, and shame on you if you didn't. But me and DJ basically told anyone that says that or thinks that where to go. What a terrible thing. We were looking at it. 30 career regular season touchdowns. Get out of here. I know that the playoff performance is what you want. You want a guy that competes in the Super Bowl. But we're talking about the Hall of Fame. We're talking about guys like Isaac Bruce who aren't even in the Hall of Fame. I'll tell you guys that deserve the Hall of Fame more than Julian Edelman: Wes Welker, Jarvis Landry, Mitchell Renz, and Ben Morgan. Get that talk out of here. I am done with anyone who thinks Edelman. I hope you're not in there because then you'll just hang up on me. But man, no. Edelman in the Hall of Fame? No.
No, I tweeted something out like a week ago, and I was like, if you think Julian Edelman's in the Hall of Fame, let me know so I can block you. And it got like, I think it got like 700 likes, 100 retweets, and it's like probably my most popular tweet this month. So I didn't know if you were on that train, but he has 0 Pro Bowls in 2 seasons of over 1,000 yards.
Isn't that amazing?
There has never been a wide receiver in NFL history to make the Hall of Fame who hasn't been to at least 3 Pro Bowls.
That's amazing. He averages like 10.9 yards per catch. And I know that's not the end-all, be-all stat, but get real. There's so many guys that deserve it over Julian Edelman.
Hines Ward.
Yeah, you just named another one. Yep. Let's take a look at this next headline. All right, Baker Mayfield and the Browns now have the roster to make the 2019 playoffs. You buying into that?
So before the Kareem Hunt move, Tom here at Chat Sports was kind of like, I am picking the Browns to win the AFC North. And when he first said it, I was like, man, I don't know if I can get behind it, right? But again, the Bengals, I think, are about to be in full tank mode. I would bet almost my entire rent that they're going to trade Andy Dalton and they're going to sign Ryan Tannehill. They, for some reason, love Ryan Tannehill, and I don't understand why. It's Zach Taylor. He's got a good relationship there.
Yep.
But then I'm not really afraid of the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson's going to have a little bit of a sophomore slump, and again, that defense is great, but whatever. And the Steelers, I think Big Ben and AB make each other a little bit more than what we give each of them credit for.
Yep.
But losing AB is going to hurt, and losing Le'Veon Bell, I understand they didn't have him, but it's still going to hurt. And again, that is a weak team. So, do they have the roster? It just sounds insane to say the Browns are going to make the playoffs.
It does. But I'm with you. Actually, everything that I was going to say is exactly what you said, so I won't repeat all that stuff. The one thing that I'll add is I actually think the Browns' defense was a little bit better than what they statistically show. And I think that's because early in the season, they were on the field so much that yards were going to happen. Points were going to happen. Once Baker took over, he settled in a little bit. He started making some plays. You saw the defense improve a little bit. And I think through free agency and the draft, you get a couple of extra guys in there. I mean, Denzel Ward popped off. I mean, you don't want to bank on a rookie having to make a big factor on a team, but he's one of those guys that proved he can do it. Myles Garrett's another year older. You've got some decent linebackers. Get a couple more playmakers in there. I like the Browns to take that division, and obviously if you take the division, you make the playoffs. But what's it on average?
Analysis here at Loaded Box.
Did you just blow your nose on live podcast?
No, I laughed because you said if they win the division, they'll make the playoffs. I said analysis, but I am popping pills.
I'm breaking news, man. If you win the division, you make the playoffs.
That's what's up.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm about that team. It seems weird to say, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to believe in it.
That's good.
Let's look at – I got a question here for you.
Oh, boy.
So Eagles look like they're committing to Carson Wentz. Nick Foles starts for which team?
I've already put money down that he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You keep stealing all my answers, dude.
So I just look at all the odds out there, and then I just look at the puzzle pieces, and I think the Jags see that they are a quarterback away from being a legitimate team. Now, there are reports that the Jags want to trade up to lane Dwayne Haskins, so they may use Nick Foles as like a bridge to maybe train Dwayne Haskins for a little bit. But at the end of the day, John DeFilippo, he's now with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and when DiFilippo was with the Eagles, that's when we saw the most success from
Right.
Foles, and when he was the Super Bowl MVP. So I'm going to go with the Jags. I just think it's the most logical answer for Nick Foles.
I actually like that idea. I think that's where the Broncos screwed up last year. I liked the idea of them bringing in Case Keenum, but I loved the idea of them getting a quarterback like Josh Rosen, just to have Keenum be that stopgap guy. Obviously, Case Keenum wasn't going to be the long-term answer, and if Elway thought he was, man, Elway's made some really questionable decisions then. But I'm with you on the Jags. I'd be all about them signing Foles, letting him play for a year or two, draft Haskins. That connection with the old OC would be great. Nice thing about the Jags, too, you hit it on the head. That defense, it's kind of like the Browns. That defense was better than what they statistically shown. They were asked to do so much with such a crappy quarterback. Get a guy in there that can make some decent decisions, get the running game established. They're not that far away. I don't think that 12-4 season 2 years ago was a fluke. Also, remember, Marquise Lee's going to be back. They just need a competent quarterback, and I think Foles could do that. And I like the idea even more of drafting a young guy with him.
Yep. No, and I think there's the other teams that need a quarterback. I just don't think that they're going to be the ones that go out and get Foles. So like I said, I've already put money down on Nick Foles to Jacksonville.
I like it. That's exact confidence. You're not just hearing Mitchell just spread bullshit on this. He's putting his real money on it. Bryce Harper's real made to be money on these things. Let's look at the next question here. So another big news the last day or so, Kyler Murray picking football over baseball. Do you think Kyler Murray will regret that decision?
I don't. And I think so we're going to get a little sentimental here on the Loaded Box podcast.
Oh, jeez. So, get my violin out.
I think it's important for all young athletes and anything that you do or anybody, you don't have to be an athlete, to follow your heart over, I don't know, doing what people tell you. So, Ben, you remember. I was a kid who literally, did podcasts in my parents' attic, and everyone told me I was insane for thinking that I could do fantasy football full-time for a job. And if you believe it, maybe you can achieve it. And I think Kyler's heart is in football, and he's going to make more money playing football. People might think I'm crazy for saying that, but his signing bonus was what, $4 million with the A's. If he gets drafted in the first round, I bet he gets picked in the top 15. His signing bonus alone will be $8 million. So I think Kyler made the right choice. But then also, there are so many levels of Major League Baseball. Right. People don't realize that, right? It's rookie ball, single A, double A, triple A, and then you hope to make it to the majors. And also, if you pick baseball over football, I don't think you can go from baseball to football. I think if you play football and it doesn't work out for you, you can always go to baseball. That's just my opinion.
See, I was going to ask you next about that, because if you go way back, that's kind of what we saw Drew Henson do. But he did it the opposite way around. He tried baseball first, and then he went into football. And neither worked out with him, and I don't know what the hell Drew Henson's doing anymore. But you, if I remember correctly, were a pretty talented baseball player back in the day.
Oh boy!
So I'm not trying to even be funny here. I'm just trying to say that's the one narrative that I'm not sure that I can get behind. It's because if you're doing something at that high of a level, at a major league level, and all of a sudden you're going to focus on playing football, and it's not that he's focusing on being a wide receiver or a defensive back, even though that takes a lot of training, that takes a lot of playbook studying. You're trying to be a franchise's quarterback, which is obviously full-time, sun up, sun down. Look at how Tom Brady treats his body. Look at how he studies the playbook. Look at how he works with all these people. I'm not quite sure that Kyler Murray's going to have any time to hone up on his baseball skills. I just don't know that he can try the NFL for 2 to 3 years and then be like, didn't work for me. I'm going to go back to the A's and give baseball a shot. I don't know that that's there, but I do think he's making the right decision.
See, I think it's going to be more along the lines of Tim Tebow. I don't think Tim Tebow is all that great of a baseball player, but he was such a star and he was such an athlete. He'll get a contract somewhere because he's going to put butts in seats. So, again, for minor league baseball, you have to be talented. And Kyler's talented enough to play minor league baseball, but it's also about entertainment at that point. And he's going to be an entertainment factor, and he's going to put butts in seats. So I know a bunch of people in baseball, and to be honest, my old travel coach was roommates with Billy Beane, who owns the Oakland A's, and they're the ones that drafted Murray, and they're like, we'll take him back in a heartbeat. But here's the other thing, you go to Major League Baseball, you might not play in the pros for 3-4 years.
Oh, easily.
He's gonna play in the NFL right away, and they'll know in 3 to 4 years, and it's okay, if it didn't work out, Kyler will get a shot still in the MLB. Maybe not MLB, but at like an affiliate team or something like that.
A chance to work his way up. Absolutely. Here's the thing that scares me about Kyler Murray, though. Everyone's all about the size, 5'9", 5'10", whatever he ends up being. And people have been kind of paving the way for him, the Drew Brees, the Mayfield, the Russell Wilson. So we can't totally give him the height stereotype. The game's changing enough where that's not the end-all be-all. 5 years ago, Kyler Murray's not getting drafted because of his legit size.
I know, right?
This is what scares me. Those three guys that I mentioned, they've got a little bit of bulk. There's something to them. Kyler Murray weighs 170 or 175 pounds. I don't know that that's quite going to hold up. That's what scares me.
I think it's funny. I'm actually bigger than Kyler Murray. And the other day, I looked at myself in the mirror. I don't know if I had clothes on or not. And I was like, I could be an NFL quarterback. And it's kind of funny to
You didn't. We were accidentally FaceTiming.
Yeah, right? Send nudes. No, it's one of those things. But he is very tiny. But again, he's unbelievably talented. And I don't think it's fair to compare him to anybody because I can honestly say we've never seen a quarterback in the NFL like Kyler Murray. He is unbelievably athletic. He can throw the ball. But here's the thing. I think you hit it on the head. 5 years ago, he's not in the NFL.
Right.
The NFL, though, has now gone to a more college-friendly scheme. And instead of trying to make a quarterback fit an NFL-style offense,
yep.
you see a team. Chiefs are a perfect example of that. We're all right, we drafted a quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. We're going to fit our entire team around our quarterback's strengths.
Right.
And that's why teams excel. And you're going to continue to see that. I think Kyler Murray is going to be a slam dunk player, and he's my number one quarterback. He's the first guy I would take.
There was a stat going around about batted passes at the line, and it was all of your top 7 quarterbacks.
It's all tall guys.
Yeah, it's all tall guys, and I think Murray only had 5 the entire season, and Oklahoma statistically is actually one of the tallest and biggest offensive lines as well. So they have that.
The other thing though is Oklahoma had probably the best offensive line in the country and
true
wide open pockets, and he's playing in the Big 12. I get every argument, but then there's the argument when it came time to play, Kyler showed up and Kyler lit up the Alabama defense, and I think that doesn't get talked about nearly enough because, dude, I'm telling you, Kyler can play, and he's gonna now everything is system fit, right? You put Kyler on a shitty if he goes to the Redskins, which is a possibility, I'm gonna be really upset.
I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that exact situation here in a second. But before we go on to the next one, let's talk real quick about Pristine Auction because they have daily auctions packed with tons of stuff for the man cave. They guarantee their items as they all come with certificates of authenticity from only the trusted sources. It's affordable. A lot of people don't think you can afford it, but it's much more affordable than you think. That's a lot of affordables in one sentence. It's quick and free to register. It's free to bid. You only pay when you win. Make sure you mention the Loaded Box podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section when you register. So head over to pristineauction.com today.
Ben, I'm actually on Pristine Auction right now. We should get DJ this Aaron Rodgers Green Bay Packers jersey.
No, we shouldn't. That's the last thing. He bailed on me with 4 hours before the podcast. He should be buying me something.
All right, true. Well, right now they got up there a Tom Brady signed jersey, a Brian Dawkins helmet, Steelers Hall of Fame helmet. Oh, damn. All right, they got some good stuff. And we can get, how about this? We'll get DJ this 1950 Indian headquarter gold coin.
You'd know what to do with that.
It's only $262. We can get it for him.
That's a freaking steal. So, yeah, all you lady listeners out there, Valentine's Day is coming up. Make sure you head over to Pristine Auction. Get your man some autographed memorabilia. And speaking of Valentine's Day, Mitchell Renz, the ladies' man, typically of the podcast, since DJ and I are old married men. What's on the calendar for V-Day?
For V-Day? I don't have anything on the calendar for V-Day. Like I said, I think it's pretty funny when I go into work and I look at our milk jugs, and our milk jugs today had the expiration date of February 14th, and I was like, shit, even milk can get a Valentine's Day date, and I can't. So, I'm like, what do I got to do to get a date around here? But no, actually, I got a date on Friday with a girl. Her name's Alex, so I'm looking forward to that. And then Monday is with, I believe, or Sunday's with Emily, so that should be fun.
Nice. So 2 girls. Nice. I like that. And you don't even know it yet because you're so young. You're doing it right. You don't go out on Valentine's Day. That's when they jack up all the prices and everything. You go on a couple days before or a couple days after. You don't even know it, but you're crushing it.
I appreciate that. I do have a gym date if that matters.
What's that mean?
I've been talking to a girl at the gym. We like stretch together, so she's like, "Are you gonna come on Thursday?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do that."
So many one-liners right now that are coming to my mind.
Yeah.
I love that. That's I want to stretch with somebody.
Well, I've already tried, but I got the deny. So I think it's friendly at this point.
That's all right. Yeah, I think you can work your way into that. Just slip her something in her pre-workout. Let's go on.
Goodness. Oh my.
The Valentine's Day potion, baby. Let's look at the next question. Okay, here's one for you. Which first-year coach has the most success in year one? I'll give you a quick rundown. I think there was 8 of them. Adam Gase with the Jets, Freddie Kitchens with the Browns, Vic Fangio with the Broncos, Bruce Arians with the Bucks, Cliff Kingsbury with the Cardinals, Matt LaFleur with the Packers, Zach Taylor with the Bengals, and Brian Flores with the Dolphins.
I'll say first-year coach with the most success. To be honest, I don't even think it's close. Now, I like Bruce Arians from a fantasy football standpoint because he likes to chuck the ball. He's always been like one of the top players or top coaches for air yards, and I think Jameis Winston, great fit for air yards. But in real-life football, I mean, it's got to be Freddie Kitchens. I mean, we just talked about the Browns potentially making the playoffs, and if Freddie Kitchens is a first-year head coach and makes the playoffs with the Browns, it might be bigger than when LeBron brought a championship to Cleveland. Like, in all honesty, it really might. I mean, Adam Gase, I don't trust with the Jets. They're not going to win. Vic Fangio with the Broncos, they're not a winning team to me. Cliff Kingsbury, I don't even know how he got a starting job. Matt LaFleur, I like with Aaron Rodgers is like but it's not as big of an accomplishment because it's always going to be, oh, well, they have Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Zach Taylor, they're not going to try to win. And the Dolphins, to be honest, I think they tanked this year.
Yep.
All the rumors that I hear, they're going to tank because they want Tua. So
yeah, it's funny. I have so many things I want to ask you here. One, I think DJ obviously would go Matt LaFleur with the Packers. 2, you brought up an interesting thing with Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals. There's been some smoke. I don't think there's any fire to it, but have you seen the smoke about Cliff Kingsbury saying if he had the top overall pick that he would draft Kyler Murray? So obviously if they do that, that means Rosen's on the trading block. Any fire with that smoke?
So actually that quote is a quote that we always talk about here at work. He actually said that like 2 years ago,
yeah.
If he had the first pick. So people don't see that. Like, right. It's a quote that's literally 2 years old. And sure, like, he said that he liked Kyler Murray, and it was some like ridiculous thing. And maybe not 2 years ago. It was maybe like right in the beginning of the year or something like that. I don't remember what it is. But it's not a recent quote. So Josh Rosen's the answer there. He's not going to the Cardinals. Like,
right.
It's not going to happen.
Right. I'm with you on my boy Freddie Kitchens on the Browns, just because, man, I told you all my reasons earlier. For some reason, for how terrible it feels and for how terrible it sounds, Browns are my playoff pick. Every single year we see like 8 new teams in the playoffs. Browns are going to be one of them. You heard it here first, Loaded Box Podcast. All right, Mitchell, you alluded to a little bit of fantasy football earlier. And our boy Ryan Miner put out an article earlier this week on loadedboxpodcast.com with his first round mock draft fantasy football style of the year. It's never too early. I used to think it was too early. Never too early. His top receiver off the board in his first round mock was Davante Adams. Who's your first wide receiver off the board as of now?
It's really hard to argue with Davante Adams, but I'm going to go with Julio Jones. And I'm going to stick with Julio Jones. And I mean, Julio Jones is the only receiver in the NFL the last 4 years to be top 3 in receiving yards, and he led the the league in receiving yards again this year. No more Steve Sarkisian. I don't got to worry about Steve Sarkisian sucking anymore. And I think at the end of the day, there's still some question marks around certain offenses, I think, in the NFL. And Julio's reliable. I'm going to go Julio, and then I'd go Davante Adams. And I think OBJ is an interesting name, obviously. But see, again, that depends on who they get at quarterback. Antonio Brown. I think he was really helped out by a high target share with Big Ben, and I don't know if he's going to get that wherever he goes again. So, I mean, now you tell me AB goes to the Colts, that'd be more interesting to me.
That.
Like,
yeah,
right. Like that's a different conversation, but I'll take Julio as 1A, and then it's probably right now for me, Devontae Adams and then DeAndre Hopkins.
The thing about Julio, and I've been like the biggest Julio supporter basically since he's been in the league. I remember there was like a Thursday or a Sunday night game. Antonio Brown obviously has been great. He's been one of the best receivers we've seen over the last 7 to 10 years. He had a primetime game where he scored 3 touchdowns, and Twitter blew up and said, Antonio Brown, best of all time. If not the best of all time, he's right behind Jerry Rice. And I'm sitting here saying, Antonio Brown is great, don't get me wrong. Julio Jones is better than Antonio Brown. And I know that there's theories out there, there's stats out there, there's people out there that would make a good point against that. I truly believe Julio Jones is the most dominant receiver. We just haven't seen like the amount of targets that Antonio Brown is type getting. We haven't seen the looks in the end zone.
We've seen it 1 year, and they both had 136 catches.
Right. That's the thing. I'm all about Jones. The only thing that sucks about taking him that high in fantasy, especially if you're in a league that really rewards touchdowns, that's always his Achilles heel. And at some point, I really think he's going to break that. So I love Julio. I can get behind that. I know there's probably a lot of people out there listening that cannot get behind that.
Yep.
But what do you think about DeAndre Hopkins? That's one name that you did not mention. The thing about Hopkins is I think he's going to get a lot of targets. He's like guaranteed to get a ton of yards, and he seems to be one of those guys that finds the end zone. My only beef with Hopkins, he doesn't seem to have that quite as consistent this last year as what we saw out of a guy like Devontae Adams.
Yeah, no, I can get, again, I mean, he's never missed a game, and I said Hopkins would be my number 3 receiver right now. But again, I want to see what they do from positions around him. So the one thing that worries me a little bit with Hopkins is he's the only receiver in town, and sure, like that might mean more targets, but again, I look at fantasy football as opportunity as king, and out of all those receivers, Hopkins probably gets the least amount of targets because Watson doesn't throw the ball that much now. And it's just, again, I mean, we're splitting hairs here with great, talented wide receivers, but at the end of the day, I will take the upside in Julio Jones because I hate Steve Sarkisian, and I'm hoping that if Julio can get this 7 or 8 touchdowns, he's getting you 1,500 yards, he's going to get you 100 catches, like, I'll take the reliability of Julio Jones, and it's tough, but that's where I'm going to go.
And he's not like that Tyreek Hill kind of guy that's going to get you 170 yards and 2 touchdowns in 1 week. He's going to get you that 80 to 110 basically every week, and he'll sprinkle in a touchdown here and there. But fantasy football is a weekly game. That's the bad thing about a guy like Tyreek Hill. I bet there's people out there that would call Tyreek their wide receiver 1, and there's zero chance to get behind that.
I mean, sure. I think he finished as the top wide receiver, I believe, in fantasy football.
Yeah, but when you look at that weekly thing, he lost you weeks.
Oh, there's no doubt. I think it was like 9 weeks in the season or something crazy, 7 weeks in the season or something crazy like that, where he was like not even a wide receiver 3. But that's going to happen. So
boom or bust. It kind of depends on what your team looks like, how you want to play it, what your strategy is that year. So I'll give people that. I've got one more for you here. Talking about NFL draft, you kind of alluded to some of these guys earlier. Which team is the first team to select a quarterback in what's considered a questionable quarterback draft class?
The first team that will select a quarterback in this year's draft will be the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to trade up with the Oakland Raiders at pick number 4, and they are going to take quarterback Dwayne Haskins.
You know how many damn draft picks the Oakland Raiders will have if they can trade that pick?
Well, the way that I see the draft going, it's Nick Bosa, Josh Allen, and then Quinnen Williams. Then the Raiders will be sitting there. And, again, I run the Raiders report here at Chat Sports, and I'm amazed on how fast it's growing and whatnot. But I look at it, and I see the Raiders, they're creating rumors. And I think Gruden's been doing it, Mayock's been doing it, and there's rumors around even like John and Jay, like the Redskins trading up to that 4 spot with the Raiders. You know, like I think the Raiders trade back, but I think the Jags go from 7 because they're going to try to jump the Giants, who are interested also in Haskins.
Yep.
I think in terms of value and picks and all this different stuff, I think the Jags will offer up a little bit more than the Giants. So.
That's a bold February call, but I like it. Here's how I have it shaking out. I wrote down a couple of teams here. So obviously at 4 you have the Raiders. The funny thing about the Raiders is, and I don't know how much to take this because John Gruden doesn't say a bad word about anybody, but that dude was just enamored with Kyler Murray. And I don't think he'll take him there, but I'm just saying, there's a rumor floating around there. 5, you got the Buccaneers. Arians apparently sticking with Winston. I don't know if that's a great idea. 6, this is my answer. If the draft unfolds how it is, no trades, I think the Giants take Haskins. So that would be my answer. 7, the Jaguars, I see them taking a free agent like Nick Foles, like we said. 10, with the Broncos, sounds like Drew Lock is their guy. 11, with the Bengals, I'm with you on Tannehill there. 13 is the Dolphins. I can see them, like you said, I think it's all-out tank mode. I don't see them spending big. I don't see them getting a guy like Foles. I could see them getting like a Teddy Bridgewater, a Ryan Fitzpatrick, maybe a guy like Jacoby Brissett if the price isn't too high from Indy. And then you got 15, the Washington Redskins. And you alluded to this earlier because I think they'll end up with a guy like Dalton. But if Kyler Murray is on the board, I did a mock draft last night. You can find it on loadedboxpodcast.com. It's the first one I've done all year. I hate to tell you this because you said you didn't want to see it happen. I've got Kyler Murray mocked to the Redskins at 15.
Oh, it'd break my heart. And I don't even know if Washington fans could handle another dual threat quarterback in the Big 12 that won a Heisman. Like,
that crossed my mind.
If they could handle it. But I hope he's a lot better than RG3. Man, like, again, I understand it's a weak quarterback class, and I think it is. But again, when you have a player like Kyler, it's going to make it interesting.
Right.
And he's the one player that I want to see where he goes more than anyone. Because, again, the running back class is pretty weak. The wide receiver class is okay to me. The tight end class might be actually one of the better tight end classes that we've seen in recent years. But from a fantasy standpoint, this draft class, I think is kind of boring because it's so loaded with defense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's loaded with defense. Look at the amount of edge rushers. Look at the amount of defensive tackles. There's like probably 3 to 5 defensive backs, like combination cornerbacks and safeties that could go in the first round. I'm with you. We might not see a lot of first-round offensive guys, except for DK Metcalf. All right, dude, that's David Boston 2.0. I said this on Twitter yesterday. In case you haven't seen it, just Twitter search DK Metcalf. I'm recklessly speculating here, but that dude has 4-game suspension tattooed on his chest.
He's a massive human being.
I mean, it's like I looked in the mirror. What the hell happened to that guy?
Yeah, I don't. He almost looks too big to be a receiver.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was scary, but he's my top wide receiver still. So he's an absolute freak of nature, but he's full-grown man. Yeah,
David Boston once said, "I'd rather dominate for 5 to 7 years with this body than be average for 10." And I think he's taking a play out of that playbook.
Oh my Lord! No, he's massive.
Yeah, I love it. Mitchell, I know you're a little short for time, so we can call it quits if you're interested. Otherwise, if you have any quick headlines or questions you want to throw out there, now's your time.
Unfortunately, I don't have anything on my mind right now in terms of videos. But if you guys want to check out a lot of the stuff that I do, if you're a Raiders fan, check out youtube.com/Raiders Report. #1 Raiders channel right now on YouTube. And then go over to Chat Sports. Check us out there, youtube.com/ChatSportsTV. And if you want to interact with me on Instagram and Twitter, it's @MitchellRenz365. And if anybody wants an NFL jersey, slide in those DMs. I got you.
Kareem Hunt, ladies and gentlemen. Well, everyone, thanks again for listening. Thanks to Mitchell Renz for coming on. He's extended his lead in podcast visits by a guest. Check us out on Twitter @LoadedBox. Check out the website, loadedboxpodcast.com. DJ might be back next week in case if he forgets again, then we'll probably have Mitchell on again. But check us out, Google Play, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, all of those great places. So with that, Mitchell, thanks again. Why don't you go ahead and send us out?
Bye.